Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, a while back, we took a look at Lamino and his fantastic video on DB Cooper. And if you haven't seen my reaction to that video, I'll put a link down in the description so you can check it out. I've done a few of Lamino's, won't be doing any more going forward, but that's a long story for another day. But that got me wanting to learn a little bit more about DB Cooper. Well, enter my friend Ryan, who lives in Mississippi, who is somewhat of a DB Cooper expert. And he's actually got a new channel called DB Cooper Sleuth. And I was talking to Ryan the other day, and he said, I got a video you might want to consider checking out for your channel. And I said, sounds good to me. So we're going to take a look today at his video on Did DB Cooper Actually Jump? I don't know much about this topic beyond what we talked about in that previous reaction, but I'm excited to see what they have to say about this. I'll put the link in the description so you can check it out. He's got just over 2,000 subscribers, so if you are into DB Cooper, this is a great channel for you to subscribe to, so definitely check it out through my link in the description. I'm also going to pin in the comment section my reaction to Lamino's video on DB Cooper, so you can check that out. Definitely check them both out. Let's go ahead and dive into this one.
He's not going to let her leave the aircraft at this time.
He made me feel very sure that we had a very real and horrifying threat.
We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went.
He was Loki, right?
Yes, DB Cooper definitely jumped from the plane that night. But in case you're wondering how this is known with certainty despite no one actually seeing him jump, I'll try to explain it. First, it's important to know that Cooper purposely picked a 727 to hijack because it was one of two American airliners, along with a DC-9, that possessed what were called aft stairs.
Yeah, that's something that no planes have anymore, but back then they did, and those are perfect. They're kind of like military planes that, the guys would do jumps out of, like special forces. It's not like a door on the side where you throw it open and the cabin decompresses and, all hell breaks loose.
Stairs were a unique design feature because they allowed the 727 to land at smaller airports and pick up passengers without any need to hook up to a jetway or have a stairs truck pull up to the front exit. These stairs were a necessary component for Cooper's heist because it gave him a stable platform to jump from, as opposed to, say, opening one of the emergency exits and trying to jump out that way. Okay, so first a quick refresher. Once Cooper received his money in Seattle and let the passengers go, he did keep one stewardess, Tina Mucklow, and the rest of the flight crew as hostages and told them to fly to Mexico City. About 5 minutes after takeoff from Seattle, Cooper lets Tina go join the rest of the crew in the cockpit, telling her to turn off the lights and close the curtain in between first class and coach on her way up. Not long after Tina is in the cockpit, Cooper tries to lower the stairs, but they aren't falling far enough. The stairs on that particular model of 727 mainly used gravity and their own weight to lower to their fully open position once they were unlocked. But the stairs weren't falling far enough for Cooper's liking, so he calls to the cockpit and says,
I can't get the stairs down. I can't get the stairs down. The stairs won't open up.
All this noise.
I've never heard the guy talking about this who was actually on there. That's awesome.
And then he tells them to slow down a bit. What was happening was that the wind from the airstream was blowing too hard up against the back of the stairs, keeping gravity from doing its job.
Yeah, these stairs weren't designed to be opened at, 10, 20, 30,000 feet while you're going 400 or 500 miles an hour. I don't know how fast they were going. He probably had to make them slow down to whatever their minimum airspeed was. I don't know, maybe 150 or something like that, maybe lower.
So the crew slows down a good bit, and a little while later, they get an indicator light in the cockpit telling them that the aft stairs have opened up.
And that would have caused a lot of drag on the plane, too, which would have probably slowed them down even more.
It's important to point out at this point that even after slowing down, the stairs were only able to naturally fall about 20 degrees. So they weren't really close to being fully deployed at that point.
Yeah, but the weight of him kind of coming down on it, but also as long as there's enough space for him to duck and maybe roll out, he's probably fine.
However, once Cooper began to walk or climb down the stairs, his body weight was sufficient to lower them to their fully deployed position. In the cockpit, the crew noticed that they were getting some oscillations on one of their instrument panels.
I wonder if his sunglasses stayed on, or if he packed them somewhere, or if they're out there somewhere still waiting to be found.
Indicating to them that something was occurring in the rear of the plane. They correctly presumed that it was Cooper doing something with the stairs, and they reported this over the radio.
And that helps then to help kind of pinpoint when and where they think he jumped, because wherever they were when they radioed, they'd be able to kind of figure that position out.
A few minutes went by as they watched these oscillations occurring on the instrument panel, and then suddenly every member of the crew felt a popping sensation in their ears.
Huh.
One of the pilots said it was akin to rolling down a window if you're speeding down the highway.
Do you ever put down one window but not the other, and it's that awful kind of weird pressure thing that's going on, so you have to put down a window on the other side even if it's just an inch, just to kind of equalize things?
Another pilot said it felt like a cork going off from a champagne bottle.
Huh.
Whatever it was, they definitely felt the pressure change in their ears. And what was the cause of this pressure change? Well, in the back, when Cooper jumped and the stairs were suddenly relieved of his weight, the stairs acted like a diving board and they sprang upward toward the fuselage, briefly slamming shut. This forced a burst of air down the length of the cabin and is what caused this pressure change in their ears.
So really, they know the exact moment he jumped.
This incident is now referred to as the pressure bump. So for Cooper to have still been on the plane when it landed in Reno to refuel, he would have had to have faked this pressure bump somehow. This just wasn't possible without a very heavy weight being quickly removed from the bottom of the stairs. Plus, even if he somehow could have faked this pressure bump, he wouldn't have had any idea that he needed to do it in the first place. No one had any knowledge at the time that this would occur because no one was ever known to have jumped from the aft stairs of a 727 in flight before. A couple years earlier, a few parachutists from the CIA's covert airline Air America had gone out the back of a 727. But when they did this, the stairs were removed before takeoff and they instead went down a ramp. Following the hijacking, Northwest Airlines had an idea that this pressure bump was caused by Cooper jumping.
You know what's amazing to me in thinking about all of this is that the amount of time and energy and effort that has gone into investigating this and trying to recreate what happened and search for him probably is dramatically more expensive than the money he took in the first place. I mean, at this point, it's really, there's nothing to be gained by it except people's curiosity.
But they weren't totally sure. So to test this theory, a joint experiment was conducted by Northwest Airlines, the FBI, and the Air Force. In January 1972, they used the exact same aircraft from the hijacking and replicated the exact speed, altitude, and flight configuration, and then pushed a 230-pound sled off the back of the stairs. As they expected, when the weight of the sled was removed, the stairs briefly slammed shut, causing a pressure bump that was felt by everybody in the aircraft who was participating in this test.
That's cool.
In the cockpit for the test was Harold Anderson, who was the flight engineer during the actual hijacking.
That's even better because you have a guy who's actually going to know that it was the same feeling and the same pressure bump. That's awesome.
He reported that it was the exact same sensation that he felt on the night of the hijacking. Throughout the first half of 1972, 5 other copycat hijackers also parachuted from the back stairs with a ransom.
So that makes a little more sense then, that they're putting this time and effort and money into investigating this, because D.B. Cooper's not an isolated incident. They don't want this to keep happening.
Of these copycat hijackings, the FBI told those hijacked crews, hey, you're going to feel something when this guy jumps, so let us know when you feel that popping in your ears. Sure enough,
smart.
Every one of those copycat hijackers caused a pressure bump when they jumped.
Makes me wonder then, is this one of the reasons why they don't have these planes, this type of plane in service anymore? And they just told these smaller airports, you've just got to figure it out and get yourself some stairs to be able to deplane these people.
Remarkably, we do have actual film footage of the stairs reacting this way. In the beginning of The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, a really crummy film from 1981, a skydiver playing the role of Cooper is seen jumping from the aft stairs. We can clearly see the stairs rebounding, although they don't rebound nearly as much as when Cooper or his copycats jumped.
They're probably filming this at a much lower altitude at a much slower speed.
This is almost certainly a result of the lower speed they were flying at for the filming of this scene.
Makes sense.
No doubt safety was a key concern when they filmed this, and so they were probably flying as slow as possible, which would have meant there wasn't as much wind pushing up against the bottom of the stairs. Nevertheless, This is the only footage known to exist of an individual actually jumping from the aft stairs of a 727. So this pressure bump is the main reason that we know for certain that Cooper actually jumped, and it also indicates where he jumped roughly.
Yep.
But it's also worth noting that when the plane landed in Reno, local law enforcement were speeding down the runway behind the rear of the plane, ensuring that no one jumped out on the runway.
So yeah, so anybody who's claiming that he was waiting and as soon as they landed he jumped off and ran away, didn't happen.
Over the next several hours, the plane was thoroughly searched. They weren't so much worried about Cooper being on the plane at that point, but were concerned that maybe he had stashed this alleged briefcase bomb somewhere. To look for this bomb, they pulled up the floor panels, they removed side panels from the stairs.
And this is actually brilliant on his part then, because they're spending manpower and energy and time looking for a non-existent bomb instead of putting those resources on finding him.
They removed the ceiling panels. Basically anywhere that a bomb could fit, they searched. And there was, of course, no sign of Mr. Cooper. So there you have it. Cooper absolutely jumped that night. I know it kind of seems obvious to most people, but I think one of the reasons why some people, mostly those unfamiliar or very new to the case, might consider this a viable theory is because they don't know about the 5 other men who came after Cooper and committed the same crime. 3 of these men even managed to get away from where they jumped, even with the FBI and local law enforcement knowing where they jumped, all thanks to this pressure bump giving away their jump location. One of these copycat hijackers was caught after 2 days, another after a week, and still another managed to evade detection for over a month.
And was one of them D.B. Cooper, just doing a repeat?
Yet with Cooper, they didn't know that this pressure bump signified where he jumped until later on. In fact, there were no law enforcement boots on the ground in the vicinity where he jumped for over 40 hours.
Jeez.
So I think that some people may think of Cooper's hijacking as some impossible thing to pull off. So they come up with all these wild theories like him hiding on the plane or whatever because they have to explain away why he was never caught.
That's a great point, though. Other people did it after him when it would have been actually harder to get away with it because somebody had already done it, so they were onto it a little bit more.
Mainly why he was never caught is because he had a 40-hour head start.
Yeah.
Give any bank robber a 40-hour head start to escape his crime scene, and he's probably going to escape. So I just don't think there was anything superhuman or mysterious about how Cooper escaped.
We love to come up with conspiracy theories because we've talked about this before. It's so hard for us to believe that the simplest explanation could be true because we want it to be some grand conspiracy. We talk about this with JFK all the time. We don't want to believe that a single guy acting on his own initiative, planning, actually with very little planning, kind of doing it at the last minute, could kill the President of the United States. But that's what happened. And so rather than believe that that's possible, we come up with the CIA and we come up with the mafia and we come up with all these other things instead of just accepting, you know what, sometimes that's just what happens. Sometimes people do get away with stuff. Sometimes people do jump out of planes into the darkness and we never see them again.
He just caught the FBI and everybody else by surprise because they didn't know exactly what that pressure bump meant at the time. In other words, Cooper had an enormous advantage by being the first to actually commit this type of crime. Anyways, that's all for today, folks. Y'all like and subscribe and do all that YouTube-y stuff. It really does help the channel.
It does. All right, so here's some of Ryan's other videos. So he actually did a reaction to Lamino's The Search for D.B. Cooper. So that's actually probably one that's worth checking out for you guys because he knows infinitely more than most people reacting to that video do about this topic. And just kind of sorting by the most popular. Here he is talking about some of the evidence in the case and some of the suspects and who they think it could have been and who it might not have been. So if you're into this topic at all, definitely check it out. And I can just say this from experience, Ryan's just a great guy in general. I got to spend some time with him when I was down in Vicksburg for the first time. He showed me around and was incredibly generous with his time. Let me borrow his Civil War reenactment uniform for some videos that I shot. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you will check out more of his content. I certainly plan to. Thanks for watching.